Today, when we hear the phrase, we need to pray, I think for many of us, there's a real challenge in asking ourselves, what does prayer mean? And how do I do that? I always felt this stress to spend an hour or half an hour or 15 minutes talking with God or listening to God. But there's a real challenge in making time in a busy world for God. I think it's important to make time, but I also know that in my life, I don't always take advantage of the invitations that are available so often in so many ways and so many places in my life to pray, to be in communication with God, not necessarily talking to God, but allowing God to talk to me. And so the first big question is, how does God talk to me? How does God talk to you? Often, God uses the ordinary situations, things, people, places around us to convey a message. Most often, that message is love. For me, I began to think about when I'm in my car. Sometimes that's the one place of silence in my life, when there's nobody trying to get my attention, when there's no phone ringing, or at least I'm not answering it, and it allows me a space and a time of a kind of silence, even in the midst of a busy world. So how is God talking to me in my car? One of the ways that I began to have some fun with was to look at road signs. So picture in your mind a stop sign. I'm stopped in my car at a stop sign or a red light. What is God saying to me in that road sign or that red light? Does God want me to stop? To stop and do what, or hear what, or say what? Is there something God wants me perhaps to stop doing? So the stop sign might be a message from God to me. The one I had a lot of fun with one day was a yield sign. You know those signs. They're kind of quadrangles with a road going one way and another road coming in where there's going to be a merge. How is God calling me to yield? To yield to God's dream for me? To yield to the needs of others? What does the yield sign mean when I think of it and contemplate it in terms of prayer? Not what do I say to God? What might God be saying to me? Sometimes I think about the sign that's a no U-turn. You know those signs. There's a U with an arrow and a stroke through it. No yield sign, or no U-turn. Sometimes in life, there is no going back. And sometimes I perceive those moments of decision as limitations. When I began to think about the no U-turn sign, what really appeared to me was this sense that in making decisions comes the greatest freedom. That I'm really unfree when I keep my options open, when I don't decide. In keeping my options open and allowing myself to have an illusion of freedom, I really don't experience the freedom that comes in making a commitment and moving forward along the road of that commitment. Other doors open when I make that commitment that I could never have foreseen, seen, dreamed of in a previous way of thinking. Another road sign that I've often seen is a bridge where the road seems to narrow a bit and there's clearly a bridge coming up. How am I called to be a bridge? in my family. Rather than building a wall between me and a sister or brother, a niece or a nephew, how can I be a bridge to greater understanding, a bridge of relationship for my sister, brother, niece, nephew, mother, father? How am I called to be a bridge? In friendships, how am I to be a bridge? In community, how am I to be a bridge? On the committees I serve on, where misunderstandings often prevail, how am I to be a bridge and a bridge maker? So I think that in life, prayer is often perceived as setting aside a dedicated time for talking to God and allowing God to talk to us. I think also that prayer can be taking advantage of situations we see every day, situations we encounter every day, and allowing God to talk to us through those. And the interesting thing about thinking about prayer in that way is that I might see a stop sign today and think that maybe today is the day I stop smoking. Maybe today is the day I start my diet. Tomorrow or the next day, I might see the same stop sign and God may put a completely different idea in my head. Today, if I see that bridge approaching sign, I might think of one relationship where I'm called to be a bridge maker or to build a bridge. In a few days' time, crossing the same bridge, I might have another message entirely. God is a God of surprises, as well as a God who wants to get through to us desperately. St. Alphonsus once said that God is crazy in love with us. You know what you do with someone you're crazily in love with. You might put notes in their gym bag. You might leave notes on the bed. You might put notes under a door. You might send surprise emails. God does the same thing for you and me in the ordinary situations of life. And the road signs that we meet along the way actually can be invitations to enter into that conversation with God and make God's crazy love more present to us in ordinary and real ways.